things were not going well for William Afton.
No! Stay back!
When I find you, I'm gonna rip you limb from limb.
You're the one who slaughtered us.
You're gonna perish.
Have a good one, Dad. Wait, please, no.
Hush.
I just wanted to make sure he's gone forever.
Who are you to judge me for my sins? Michael, I want the door!
Smart Dad.
Seems like you got this all figured out.
It all started when, tragically, William Afton's wife died shortly after giving birth to their youngest son, Norman.
I miss Mommy. Daddy says she passed away when I was little. He said she loved us very much.
Sadly, Norman had some issues. He complained that at night he'd see monsters roaming his bedroom. Monsters that sounded oddly similar to the mascots at his father's pizzeria chain, Fredbear's Family Diner. Upon returning from the Vietnam War, William and his business partner Henry Emily founded the pizzeria, with the main attraction being two performing animatronics, Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. These robots weren't very sophisticated. They were bolted to the stage and sort of just moved their arms around while music played in the background, but to kids in the 70s, it was really cool. Unfortunately, William's eldest son Michael had developed some serious behavioral problems, manifesting in the relentless bullying of his younger brother Norman. At first, everyone assumed that the monsters Norman encountered each night were just nightmares, especially considering how often Michael leveraged his brother's phobia of the animatronics to scare him. However, William wasn't so sure, and the day before Norman's 11th birthday, his father took him for a psychiatric evaluation.
I took him to the hospital the other day because he wouldn't stop screaming and claiming there was a giant golden bear with huge fangs in his room.
That day, the youngest Afton child was diagnosed with schizophrenia. The next day, Norman's party is held at Fredbear's. Accompanied by his best friend Charlie, the daughter of restaurant co-owner Henry Emily, the two enjoy their time together before they're rudely interrupted by Michael and his friends.
Okay, Norman, ready for your birthday present?
Michael, please, let me go!
Time to give Fredbear a big kiss. Ready?
Put it down!
1, 2, 3.
In the wake of the accident, Michael is arrested and charged with manslaughter. His father, William, cooperates with law enforcement, and the eldest Afton son is sentenced to 15 years in prison. Defeated, Henry Emily went home that night, heartbroken at the tragedy that had just occurred. Little did he know, Norman would not be the only child to lose their life that night. In the late evening, Charlotte Emily had just finished closing up the pizzeria when William Afton's sedan pulls up behind her.
The next day, I got a call from the county sheriff. It was my own daughter, Charlie.
In the wake of these tragedies, Fredbear's Family Diner was closed. Norman Afton was dead, Charlotte Emily was dead, Michael Afton was in jail, and William Afton was broken. He must have been broken because only a few years later, in 1987, the man convinced Henry to open Freddy Jr.'s, the successor to Fredbear's Family Diner. The new restaurant was superior in every way, but the animatronics themselves got the biggest upgrade. No longer relegated to simply animated stage props, the state-of-the-art toy animatronics, as William called them, could freely move throughout the pizzeria and interact with guests. Furthermore, Henry, still traumatized from the death of Norman and the loss of his daughter, insisted that William outfit the toys with a facial recognition system, capable of matching the restaurant's patrons against a criminal database and apprehending any felons who might enter the premises. This time, things would be different. This restaurant would be the safest place on Earth.
Oh, well, during one of the songs, the toys just froze and looked straight at this Jessie kid, you know, the birthday girl, and it ended up making her cry, but after a few seconds, they got back to singing.
It's that damn facial recognition system Henry had me put into those animatronics.
Hey, those facial recognition scanners were necessary, Will. We can't have any crazy criminals or murderers in our place.
Unfortunately, Freddy Jr.'s nighttime security guard, Jeremy Fitzgerald, had a somewhat different experience.
The dude is terrified those toys are gonna kill him. He doesn't like how these ones walk around compared to the ones we had at Fredbear's, where they were just bolted to the floor.
Well, Mr. Fitzgerald is gonna have to suck it up if he wants his paycheck.
He was told that it was normal for the animatronics to move around on their own at night, but this seemed unusual.
Hello?
Hey, you made it. Night 4. Hey, you're almost to the weekend, man.
Well, it definitely doesn't feel like a Thursday, but whatever. What's up?
Well, I wanted to call you earlier and let you know as soon as possible, but, we've got a situation.
Did I do something wrong?
No, you're fine. It's just yesterday someone tampered with the animatronics and, well, to put it short, shit may get real.
What do you mean shit may get real? What does that mean? They're not gonna come after me, are they?
I honestly don't know. I think you'll be fine, but just keep an extra eye on the cameras tonight because I really don't want the police to come back in tomorrow.
Wait. Why were the cops here today? What happened?
Oh, crap. Listen, I gotta go. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Little did Jeremy know, earlier that day, something terrible had happened. Gabriel and Susie are spending the evening at Freddy's alongside their friend Cassidy when a strange mascot they've never seen before approaches. It almost looks like Bonnie, but it's golden.
Hi, kids.
Hi. Are you a part of Freddy's band too?
Oh, I'm an old friend of Freddy and his gang. What are your names?
I'm Gabriel and this is Susie. And those are our friends over there eating at the table.
How precious. Are your parents around?
I don't know where my mommy and daddy are.
I see. Tell you what, while your food's getting ready, why don't I show you something really cool? Would you like that?
Sure, as long as we can come back and eat our pizza while it's still hot.
Oh, I promise you won't have any cold pizza today. Follow me, boys and girls.
Mister, it's kind of dark in here. Where are we?
You're in my special little world. A magical place full of happiness and wonders you couldn't even begin to imagine.
You know, kids, I had a friend many years ago tell me something I never forgot before he died in that jungle. He told me that we could forgive a child who's afraid of the dark, but the real tragedy of life is when men are afraid of the light. So let me ask you, children, are you afraid of the dark?
Gabriel? I'm scared. I think we should go.
After spending 5 nights at Freddy's, Jeremy Fitzgerald had had enough. That evening, a few hours after they spoke, Fritz gets a frantic phone call from Jeremy.
Hello?
Okay, dude. Is this what you were talking about?
What's going on?
I got the bunny and the chicken looking right at me. The person service room camera's disabled. Please tell me I'm gonna be okay.
Wait, the parts and service room camera's disabled? Oh, shit.
Fritz, what the f are the robots doing, man?
Well, I told you shit was gonna get real. Look, did you hear about what happened today?
No, what happened?
Well, we're probably gonna be closed for the next week because, well, I don't actually know what happened. All I know is that we're going under investigation. This place is going to hell, and... Listen, just finish your shift and I'll get your paycheck on Sunday.
Fritz, wait!
He was scheduled to work a birthday party the next day alongside the other security guard Fritz, but after that, he was out. Jeremy intended to quit, and I mean, who could blame him? I'm impressed he made it 5 nights to begin with. Sadly, it would be Jeremy's final birthday party at Freddy's, but not in the way he had hoped.
Hey Fritz, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
What do we do with that white foxy robot?
The what?
The mangle. Where's the mangle?
It should be in there. Nobody touched it.
Well, some kid said the animatronic from Kid's Cove was missing, and I'm in here and I'm not seeing anything.
All right, hold on. Let me get a hold of William and Henry.
Was that the bite of 87?
In the wake of Jeremy's death, Freddy Jr.'s was closed down. Fritz was questioned by the police before eventually being cleared of any wrongdoing and let go. Henry was devastated, and William gaslit him, blaming the events on the facial recognition system that Henry insisted be installed in the toy animatronics. Unable to cope with the constant nightmares surrounding him, Henry Emily is institutionalized. With Henry out of the way, William intended to continue his slaughter. However, he had cast the blame for the bite of 87 on the toy animatronics, and thus he had no choice but to dismantle them. Low on cash and desperate, William turned to the old, withered animatronics lying around Freddy Jr.'s, refurbishing them and casting them as the house band of the all-new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Mike Schmidt had been looking for a job for months. Any job would do. It was Christmas time, and Mike wanted to surprise his girlfriend by flying her parents out to them and spending the holidays together. Thus, when he saw that a local children's pizza entertainment restaurant had placed an ad for a nighttime security guard, he went for it.
So, you understand what you're doing?
If the job position is asking to watch cameras all night and report suspicious activity, then I can fully assure you that I can handle this, Mr. Afton.
Good. Hey, listen. Are you aware of anything that Fazbear Entertainment's known for?
I've only heard that the pizza isn't that bad, and that the kids love the animatronics. I mean, I'll be honest with you, they do look pretty cool. They must have cost a fortune, though.
Well, they weren't cheap. You know...
Good question. Who's the owner of the building?
That would be me.
Oh. I thought there was another guy. When I read the ad in the paper, I could have sworn you had a partner.
Well, I used to have a partner. I believe you're referring to the original owner, Mr. Emily.
Yeah, Henry Emily. Is he here today?
No, he's no longer with us. Listen, let's talk about your shift. You'll be working the night shift from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. The job's pretty self-explanatory, and I feel a guy like you will have no trouble handling this at all. Sound good?
Sounds good, sir.
Great. Now I'm gonna come off as kind of a dick, but, can you start tomorrow night?
Sure. I mean, it's Christmas Eve, but, well, I didn't know you'd be open during the holidays.
Oh, no. I just needed to watch the building so no one steals our shit during Christmas Eve. Plus, I'll give you Christmas Day and the 26th off just because I have more applicants on the list. I was going to have the day guard Fritz handle this since the week was going to be his last one, as a matter of fact. But I haven't been able to get a hold of him. I'm not sure if he quit or if he just disappeared, but You know, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
On Christmas Eve, Mike arrives at the security office and begins his shift. However, inside the office, he makes a curious discovery.
Shit, man. What are these? Training cassette tapes. Why not? Probably some stupid bullshit from that Afton guy.
Hello? Hello? I wanted to record a message for the new night guard to get started on their
Jesus Christ, how many of there are there? Oh, there's only 4. Did he only make 4? He never made a 5th one per his last night. I wonder.
Hey, listen, if you could do me a favor and check the suits in the back room, I'm gonna try and hold out till somebody gets here. I always wondered what were in those empty heads. You know, the ones that smelled really bad.
What the f was that? Is he playing? Is he dead? But
whoever or whatever had possessed the robots back in the 80s was still very much alive. Or actually they're undead, but whatever. 6 years in the nut house. It was the longest that Henry Emily had ever been confined. Finally, the doctors had decided that he was better and could reintegrate into society, but any hope that Henry might have had to live out the rest of his days in peace was shattered when he discovered that William had opened yet another restaurant.
So, how was it?
I don't know, Will. What do you think?
Hey, I'm just asking. So, do you feel any better? I mean, I haven't seen you in a while. How long's it been?
6 years. It's been 6 years since we fucked up.
Well, I wouldn't say we. It was more of a technical difficulty.
How the hell did you even get this place? Did they really let you set up this shop in this state, despite our names being in the headlines for months on end?
Listen, I'm just as surprised as you are. I take it not a lot of exciting shit happens in New Jersey. Just imagine how exciting it would be for these people to eat in the restaurant that's earned itself a haunted legacy. Not to mention the money we're going to make.
You know, William, that's your problem. It's always, hey, Henry, let's keep beating a dead horse and use missing children and dead employees for money.
Oh, for God's sake, here you go again, bitching about what's right and wrong. It's not my fault your business failed because a couple of dorks went missing. Who bought cheap robots that ended up killing my son? Oh, and whose idea was it to add the facial recognition system that ended up killing that fucker back in '87, huh? You see, Henry, without me, you personally have nothing. For 17 years, I've been busting my ass building robots, investing my life savings, and just barely escaping lawsuits to make sure we have food on our tables and a roof over our heads. And now you say the troubles are my fault? You know what? You asshole. When you're on the front lines, then you can start complaining about the so-called American dream.
Will, you're my partner and my friend, but you've changed since I got back. You really have. I don't think I can work with you anymore. You can keep the place and everything that comes with it. I'm going home.
Well, that's fine by me, Mr. Everly. Hey, do me a favor. When you get to hell, tell Charlie and Norman I send my regards, you stupid bastard.
Just a few weeks later, Henry would learn the truth of William's deception. He had killed Charlie. He had been responsible for the children that continued to go missing. And even worse, somehow those children weren't dead. This discovery was simply too much for Henry Emily to bear. William had come to discover this too, and he was afraid. He knew that giant animal robots possessed by the wrathful spirits of his victims were dangerous. He didn't understand how it had happened, and he didn't know how to kill ghosts, but he did know robots. He built them after all. So it was that late one night, William arrived at the pizzeria and set about systematically dismantling each of the animatronics. What harm could they do to him once reduced to a pile of mechanical limbs on the floor? Little did Afton know, there was a fifth threat in the pizzeria, and they were about to spring their trap.
No! Stay back!
There he is. You're the one who slaughtered us.
You're gonna perish.
You will rot in hell. It is time for our revenge. We will finally be set free from this place and live in heaven.
Look, I'm sorry. I couldn't help it. Please, leave me alone. Have mercy, goddamn you.
At some point in the past, William had experimented with a wearable animatronic. Dubbed the Spring Locks, these suits included a feature that affixed the robotic endoskeleton to the circumference of the suit, allowing a human operator to step in and wear it like a regular costume. Of course, this was ridiculously dangerous, and after a bunch of employees suffered minor injuries, Henry had convinced William to retire the suits. Right now, though, it was all Afton had.
It's too late, sir. 17 years too late.
Prepare for your internal suffering.
Get away from me! Please! The suit. You can't kill me now, you sons of bitches! I am a god! Wait! No!
No one could be sure why Afton thought the suit would protect him. Perhaps he thought the spirits might recognize him as one of their own, or maybe he'd hoped that they would fear him should he don the same suit he wore when he murdered them. Regardless, William did don the suit, and it killed him, but only for a while. In the wake of Afton's disappearance, Freddy Fazbear's was shuttered for good. Word of the numerous disappearances and horrific tragedies surrounding the franchise had begun to spread, and the place had become somewhat of a local urban legend. Thus, it was no surprise when opportunistic marketers decided to capitalize on the phenomenon, opening Fazbear's Fright, a haunted house attraction based on the grisly tales of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. When they got access to the final pizzeria opened before William Afton's disappearance, they were disappointed to find that the place was trashed. The animatronics were lying in a heap on the floor, destroyed. All of them, except for one. Thus, they packed it up and brought it to Fazbear's Fright. No one knew that inside was the rotting corpse of Freddy Fazbear's missing founder, William Afton. Well, almost no one knew.
You're the one who slaughtered us. You're gonna perish.
Goddamn kids. They never learn, do they? Once you start playing with matches, how'd that saying go?
Once you start playing with matches, eventually you're gonna get burned.
Who's there? Who else has the guts to piss me off?
Oh, no one important. Just someone who's passing by, looking for someone named William Afton.
Well, this is William speaking. Wait a minute. Who the hell is this?
You really don't recognize me, do you? You can't even tell your own flesh and blood. Can't remember your own son.
That's impossible! My son is dead, and my oldest son is... No, it can't be.
Bingo. It's me, Dad. It's me, Michael.
Well. My own little bastard. Finally free once again. You must be praying for quite the death wish if you found me all the way out here.
Something like that, I guess. Fact of the matter is, I've got you right where I want you.
What makes you say that?
Well, that door in front of you is locked, and the arcade door behind you is barricaded. Next time, Dad, I'd really take into account of how many exits you've got in this place, because I gotta tell you, this is one of the worst fire hazards I've ever seen.
Seems like you got this all figured out. So, what do you want?
Oh, don't worry. We've got plenty of time to discuss that. However, that's not what's on my mind right now. I was kind of curious to know what the actual happened to you.
I could ask you the same thing. Truth be told, Michael, you and only you are the reason for all of this. And just for that, surely you must realize that you're not getting out of this alive.
You know, that's real funny, Dad, because I heard through the grapevine something completely different has been going on for the past 20 years. So let me do you a favor and refresh your memory. Now, this may come as a shock to you, but I got out early. In '95, I was released, and I had just one thing on my mind. And that was scouring the earth, looking for you. Now, my first stop was Henry's, but I found out that he was dead. Only thing left of him was a cassette tape filled with everything I needed to know. And you know, quite frankly, Dad, I'm not surprised that you've gone on a wild killing spree for the past 2 decades. Although I've got to say, it looks like I found myself at the right place at the wrong time. Tell me, Dad, who on earth would have killed Charlotte Emily right after...
Who are you to judge me for my sins? You are no saint yourself. None of this would have happened if you hadn't slaughtered...
Who, Norman? The son you had every intention of killing since the minute he replaced Elizabeth?
What are you talking about?
Oh, don't bullshit me. Don't think I would have found out about your little side project, your little escapade that same year. What was it again? Oh, that's right. Circus Baby's Pizza. Remember how you built those other robots in the down low? And one of those clowns ended up killing my sister? Remember now, you stupid...
Elizabeth.
That's right. So let's put 2 and 2 together and realize that deep down, you knew that Norman nor myself would have ever been loved as much as you cherish Elizabeth.
Shut your goddamn mouth, Michael! I hate you so much, you piece of...
Dad, you know why dead people receive more flowers than the living? It's because regret is stronger than gratitude.
You go to hell, Michael.
I'll definitely see you there, you son of a bitch. I'm gonna wrap this up and just let you know that I've got a fuse lit right over here, and it's ready to blow this joint sky high. I've even got you a song to listen to in your final moments. Come to think of it, you should be thanking me for doing you this favor. I wouldn't want to walk around as a green undead fucking rabbit for the rest of my life.
When I find you, I'm gonna rip you limb from limb.
Pretty soon, no one will even remember you existed. Have a good one, Dad.
Wait, please, no, Michael! Michael, don't go, please! Don't leave me here, Michael! I'm sorry! Jesus Christ! Michael, I want the sword! Michael, no!
What are you still doing here? I just wanted to make sure he's gone forever.
Oh, is my dad dead?
Yes, Norman. Your father is no more.
Hey, Charlie.
Yes, Norman?
Why did my dad hurt people?
Well, I think after he returned from the fight, I think the real war began the second he got home. He lost everything and tried to fix all of his problems with the family. But in the end, everything he created ended up destroying him. Oh, come on, Norman. Let's go. Heaven's waiting for us.
Here's to you, Nicola and Bart. Rest forever here in our hearts. The last and final moment is yours. That agony is your triumph. Here's to you, Nicola and Bart. Rest forever here in our hearts. The last and final moment is yours. That agony is your triumph.
Dad, what happened? Are you okay?
Yeah, honey, I'm fine. I'm just it's just a little electric fire. That's all.
Oh, was there anybody else in there?
Nope. There wasn't a single human being in there.
Well, that's a good thing, but why did you...
Julia, listen, let's talk about this when you're a little bit older, okay? I've had quite a rough night, and I'm kind of hungry. Yeah, how about we stop for some milkshakes? What do you say?
Yes, please.
All right, milkshakes it is. Turn on the radio. All right. But